Hello, my dears. Daniela here, and welcome to another episode of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. This episode is brought to you by Addo Aesthetics, the #1 coaching company for aesthetic professionals wanting to step into the role of spa CEO. And today, I'm excited to share an interview that I did with Scott Bell, who's the founder and CEO of High Level Marketing, one of our strategic partners here at Addo Aesthetics. Now, we're diving into lifetime customer value. And this is a little bit more of an advanced KPI, but it's one of those KPIs that if you understand it and if you use it, you can run circles around your competition. And I'm using air quotes here when I say competition because you know your biggest competitor is yourself. How can you continually do better and better than you did in the previous day, the previous month, and the previous year? Now, what this KPI does is to get you to think in the amount of value that a new client is bringing into your practice over the course of their lifetime, not just for that one service. Now, oftentimes when a spa will test out Facebook ads, they'll say, okay, I'm going to spend $1,000 for a month, which is a great budget, by the way, for spa when we're working, with probably like a 10-mile radius of your physical location. All right. So we've got a $1,000 budget and your results at the end of the month, let's say you get 100 people on your email list and maybe 3 client bookings. The cash collected from those client bookings may be something like $700 to $800. So at first glance, you might be like, oh, I'm losing money on my Facebook ads. They're not working. I spent $1,000 and I only collected $700. Well, what you're not accounting for is the amount of times that that client will rebook over the course of a year and over the course of several years. How much product will they purchase? Who are they going to refer? So it's true that you may not be profiting the first month that you run ads, but over the course of the year, it's more than worth it. And that's not even taking into account those 100 people who joined your email list but haven't booked yet. This is how we run a business like a marathon, not a sprint. It's long-term. Lifetime customer value gives you the advantage because you're looking at the average value of a client that is coming into your practice over the long term. Okay? This lets you make smart business decisions. And Scott is a complete expert in this. So that's why I wanted to bring him in. And his company, High Level Marketing, even made a lifetime customer value calculator for you. It's a really cool spreadsheet that's going to help you calculate that KPI for your specific business. You're going to have a couple of entry points. So if you want to grab that, make sure that you click the download link below this episode to get your copy today. All right, so let me do a quick read of Scott's bio, and then we will jump right into that episode. Scott Bell is the Chief Executive Officer at High Level Marketing, a leading digital marketing company serving over 2,000 small and medium-sized businesses. Based in Birmingham, Alabama, the company employs over 110 team members throughout the U.S., with offices in Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas, with revenues of $20 million plus. High Level Marketing is an 8 times Inc. 500 recipient and is a Google certified partner. Scott is a leading voice in the digital marketing industry, shares his experience and entrepreneurial spirit at business and technology events, conferences, webinars, and podcasts. So I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode. I hope you enjoy it. All right, Scott, welcome to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to it.
All right, so we are going to get into a really, really important metric today, lifetime customer value, something that I think is often overlooked, underutilized in an entrepreneur's when they're looking at KPIs, when they're looking at metrics. Before we get into that, I want to know a little bit about your story. You are the founder of High Level Marketing, but you started in a different company, right? Tell me the journey.
Yeah, I'll tell you the 10-cent tour on a 12-year journey.
Yes.
So I actually got started, went through the entrepreneurship program at Auburn University.
Okay.
Started the company my senior year, and we were actually a billboard company.
Really?
Yeah, so we were going around finding land leases, getting permits, and building these monstrosity roadside digital billboards. And we started building billboards, and then I realized, well, we have to make money. So I've got to go sell the ads on those billboards. So for the first 6 years, the company name was Bell Media. We built a couple hundred billboard locations in and around Alabama and West Georgia. It was a great business. Love the billboard business. It's all about brand. But we had an opportunity to sell that company in 2015, which we did. And that gave us a great opportunity to pivot and invest in building a digital marketing agency.
Seems like a natural transition, though. I mean, it's advertising. You were, I think I told you that my dad was in billboards. Yeah, at Gannett Outdoor back in the 80s. But that transitioned into the digital billboards, which then transitioned more into digital marketing. So it seems like a very natural progression for you.
That's why I was interested in billboards, because, when I was going through college, you started to see that technology emerge. It really piqued my interest. The ability to change your ads in real time or change your ads based on traffic patterns. That's really interesting. And I think that is a really good segue for what we got into next, which is web services. I think for me, branding is an important, critical element of running a good marketing campaign, but I loved how much more tangible and trackable web and digital marketing has been since getting into it.
Yeah, that's always been something really important for me, is like when you look at, if spa owners are saying, should I do this magazine ad or should I do this? I'm like, how do you track it?
Right.
How do you know exactly, what is the return on investment for that? And to a certain degree, you can run a specific promotion that's only in that magazine. There's things that you can do, but it's a lot more time consuming to calculate and figure out than just looking at your ads manager.
Yeah, I think at times you have to invest in that, the branding element that's really hard to track. And sometimes we oversell it, and I think sometimes we undersell it. When you want to put a specific offer on an ad, what you're basically saying is this ad didn't work if they didn't call for that specific offer. And that's not necessarily true either. But yeah, offline branding can be more difficult to track, still valuable, but digital, I love to look at a customer in the face and say, we drove 50 leads for you last month, and be able to attribute that to tens of thousands of revenue. That's fun for me.
So tell me all of the touch points that you guys have at High Level Marketing. What are I know you have you serve the spa industry very much. You're doing websites, you're doing digital marketing, you're doing SEO. Am I missing anything?
We write a lot of content. Content's a really important aspect of a well-rounded digital strategy. We have some technology that helps our client base solicit feedback and get reviews. And we also offer a suite of social media services too. Now,
as you were growing your company, so you went to school for entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to own a business. I didn't know exactly when. I just knew I wanted to at some point. It just happened a little earlier than expected.
Oh, I always say I'm an accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just kind of figuring it out as I went.
Well, that's the way it goes. Even if you go to school for it, you just get punched in the gut the first month, right?
More than the first month, I think.
Yeah.
So you knew about lifetime customer value. You knew about KPIs. You knew about these different metrics that you needed to measure. And, a lot of spa owners, they are technicians, right? They go to school, and even in medical practices, you go to school to practice medicine. You go to school to learn how to care for the skin. You're not necessarily thinking about, how do I operate a business profitably? What are my margins? What are all these different metrics that we're looking at? And I think that's a big challenge in the spa industry, is because for whatever type of spa you are, they want to practice their craft. And so learning about things, I didn't have any clue what lifetime customer value was until maybe year 3 in my business.
Right.
So I want to share with our listeners now how important that metric is and how pivotal it can be. So tell me how you used it, and maybe we should talk about what it is first.
Yeah.
And then get into how you used it to grow your company.
It's so true though. When you start a business, You're usually in the business, working with clients, thinking about how do I get new clients and how do I keep things going, and learning about the metrics and the lifetime value. Typically, it takes business owners years and years to get to that point where they're thinking about that. Like, nobody's starting a business saying, this is going to be my price point and I'm going to drive X margin off that product. And that, like, nobody does that. You have to figure that out usually by making mistakes.
Open. Yeah. It's like, all right, did I make it through the year? Am I still here, still standing? I mean, it's there's so much that goes into it.
But lifetime value is basically saying, if I have a client or a patient that comes through the door, what is the average amount or volume or value of revenue I will generate from this particular client over the next 5 to 10 years? So it's really common, especially in marketing when we're working with smaller businesses, for them to ask us the question, what's my ROI? Mm-hmm. And they think, well, it might cost $50 to drive a lead, and that first visit they're going to spend $100. Is that worth it? Really, you need to think about not just their first visit. When you especially get them through marketing, you need to think about how many visits are going to happen over the next 3, 5, 10 years, because that's really how you draw a true ROI model or comparison with your marketing investment.
I hear from spa owners when I'm talking to them about Facebook ads. Mm-hmm. It's, I don't want to spend money on ads, or, I don't want to, even Groupon, when people are, right. It's like, for me, Groupon is a client acquisition strategy. That's it. It's not, you're not going to make tons of money. You're using it to get people in the door. But they're looking at, am I profiting off of this one service? Mm-hmm. And not looking at how many times are they coming back? How much retail are they purchasing? Who are they referring? I mean, there's so much that goes into getting someone in the door and keeping them.
That's exactly right. And that was the challenge in our business. We're kind of in the same boat as you. We didn't really start thinking about customer lifetime value until 3 or 4 years into our journey. And the reason why it became so top of mind for us was we were starting to spend on sales and spend on marketing. And we thought, well, if we're going to spend $5,000 on this, how much revenue do we need to generate for that to actually be a profitable marketing campaign? Mm-hmm. So we started doing the research and digging into it and realized in our business, like, we might have a customer that works with us for 5 to 7 years. And so we can't look at that first transaction or that first interaction as the barometer or the metric that we use to determine if that campaign was successful. Mm-hmm. But it's right. There's so much that you can do to influence the lifetime value of that. And we hear it all the time too with Facebook is, I spent $100 to get this one client and they spent $120 with us. What a failure. It's like, well, did that customer come back 5 times over the next couple of years and spend $1,500? That's a completely different ROI profile than that first visit.
So how are we figuring out what this is? Because it seems like there's so many variables, right? Like, are they purchasing retail? What are we including in this? And how do we even calculate what this is?
It can be incredibly complex. So my recommendation is just to keep it simple. Mm-hmm. So if you have a booking software or a POS system that allows you to track customers to revenue, my recommendation is to go back a few years. If you've been in business, say 5 years, go back 4 or 5 years and take that client base or that customer base that invested or worked with you 5 years ago, take that same group and see how much revenue they've spent with you over the next 4 or 5 years. And then you can start to calculate some averages around that. So you don't want to take 5 years ago and then every year since then and add on the new customers. You want to take a sample size of customers that's big enough and track that revenue from that same group of customers over a period of time. And then you can start to understand what the average revenue is per customer.
For us, what was super helpful, we use a payment processor called Stripe.
Yeah.
And Stripe actually has, if you go in their reporting section, they will calculate a lot of that for you.
Yeah.
So I think we're starting to see that in some of the payment processors and some of the, even some of the softwares. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're definitely becoming a lot more sophisticated. They're taking out a lot of the hard work of calculating and managing that. But, without that type of sophisticated platform, you've just got to start somewhere. And that is going back a few years, taking those clients and seeing how much they've invested in you. And you're not just looking at top line revenue. You want to think about your gross profit as well. So if you know that you're going to provide a service that's $100 and there's a hard cost of delivering that service for $20, well, then you need to kind of net that out so you understand how much true gross profit revenue you're getting from that customer.
So how are we utilizing this in our marketing? Like when we are setting a marketing budget, which again is something that, we're in year 9 of our company. I don't think we had a marketing budget until year 6. It was still like, we're spending on marketing, but there wasn't this set amount. These are the dollars. Here's what I'm going to spend it on. Here's how I'm tracking all of that kind of stuff, which I think is normal as a business matures. Definitely. And all of that. But now looking at, I know an average client cost me X amount. So how can I use that to, or gains me X amount, excuse me, but how can I use that to influence my marketing strategy or decide upon my marketing strategy?
Well, I think first and foremost, just understanding the lifetime value of a customer will enable you to understand your return on investment for your marketing dollars. And once you know your return on investment for marketing dollars, well, then you can benchmark and set goals off of that. But then once you do other marketing, you can benchmark that new marketing off of your return on ad spend or your ROI for marketing. So the best place to start is to establish what it is today, and then it gives you a much better barometer for success for other marketing campaigns that you do in the future, and whether that marketing campaign was profitable or not. And you can also use that to understand the profitability of a marketing program. It'll also allow you to say, okay, I'm going to spend $1,000 this month because I know my lifetime value of a customer. Over the next year or 2, this is going to produce $5,000 in revenue, which allows you to better forecast the size of your company, the size of your client base, and how much marketing you can incrementally put into your business.
It's really thinking as a visionary. A lot of times we use the term SPA CEO a lot because it helps them to identify, like, what is it to be a CEO? And we get asked, like, what is a CEO actually doing? Well, you're thinking about where the business is going. What is your exit strategy? Where are you going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And what do you need to do today, right now, to get your company to that place? It's not just how many new clients can I get through the door and be on this complete conveyor belt where you're going as fast as you can and burning yourself out. It's using these metrics, these KPIs, understanding what they are and implementing them in your business helps you to work smarter, not harder.
It does. And by establishing the lifetime value of a customer, you can also see what you can do from an ongoing marketing perspective to increase that lifetime value. So it's not just establishing it and saying, well, our lifetime value is $5,000. That's great. That's a good starting point. But there are so many things that you can do to impact and influence the journey of one of your clients that allows them to come back more. And then you can see how your lifetime value of a customer rises over time, like email nurturing. There's a lot of marketing tactics that can be deployed to help raise that lifetime value of a customer, which then allows you to market more. Forecast more growth, and create a higher margin.
I remember listening to a podcast once, and I don't remember the exact podcast, but the guest that was on had built just a really big company, like $100 million company. And he was diving into how he actually built this. And you often think it's like my team or this marketing budget or whatever it is, these kind of like first things that come to mind. And he said, the only thing that I looked at was lifetime customer value. And I knew what mine was and how much I could spend to acquire a new customer.
Yep.
And so I was outspending my competition and grew faster.
More sophisticated marketers are typically putting more dollars into marketing because they know their numbers. And that gives you an advantage in the market. And that's ultimately what we were trying to find when we went through the lifetime value of a customer exercise. It's called lifetime value to customer acquisition cost ratio. And the higher that number, the better your marketing is performing.
So this is a little bit off of lifetime customer value, but what do you suggest as a marketing budget percentage? I know like the SBA will recommend like 8 to 10% of your top line revenue. I've heard others that'll, depending on if you're wanting to maintain or if you're wanting to be in a growth stage, increasing up to maybe 15 to 20%. Do you have any input on what you recommend for your clients?
We see a lot of clients looking at the 10 to 15% range, and it's because they're looking to actively grow their business through online marketing. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how quickly you want to grow. So there are certainly very aggressive companies out there that are spending 20 to 25%, knowing that their bottom line margin isn't going to be there, but they're confident in putting those dollars in because they know the lifetime value and that it will pay off. But by and large, we're looking at around 10%. Some companies that are in more maintenance mode may dip down a little bit less than that. But it's hard to grow your business or your practice if you're not investing close to 10%.
And that's of top line revenue. So if you have, $1 million spa, what is that? 10,000 a month?
Yeah,
I'm like, does that work?
10%. So if you have $1 million in revenue, then you're going to spend about $100,000 a year. Now, at the end of the day, that's everything related to marketing. It's not just digital. It's not just postcards. It's everything that's related to that.
Putting on your events,
exactly.
Putting on all of it.
Yeah. It's all in there.
8,333 a month. There we go.
If you're at 100 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or no.
If you're at $1 million.
If you're at $1 million.
Yes.
Yes. 8,333 a month.
Yes.
There you go.
I know that number.
Look at you.
No, as I always say, like, if you want $1 million business, 83,333. So then we take the 10% of that. All right. We're winning here with our numbers.
Yeah.
Knowing our numbers. All right. Anything else you want to add about lifetime customer value for those that are, I guess what I'm wanting to hear also is any tips around figuring out a system for tracking these numbers, because our audience, they have so much on their plates. And, physicians oftentimes are seeing so many patients throughout the day. That's what they want to do. Our estheticians, our nurses, they're all like, so many of them are still in the room. And when we add these extra things of check this out, check that out, do this, your Google business profile, your social media marketing.
Lot to do.
There's a lot to do.
Yeah.
How do we prioritize and systemize these things that can be so impactful and meaningful for our business?
Well, if you're making a choice to spend money on what's quoted kind of as performance marketing is basically doing marketing or investing in marketing to generate leads. If that's the primary focus, is to generate leads, it's really important that you prioritize knowing the numbers before you do that, because you are looking for, an ROI on those dollars. So it's hard in the midst of the day when you've got 100 things going on. And I'm not even advocating, knowing the ROI on every channel. That's not possible, right? But if you're doing something like online marketing, I advocate for working with an agency or working with your booking and scheduling software to try and create some connections where you can see if someone's calling from a lead. If someone is booking online from a lead, where did that lead come from? All these booking softwares are typically capable of doing that now, and digital marketing agencies are too. And then where did the lead come from? So the source. And then in your booking software or POS, how much revenue was driven by that particular lead. So the capabilities are there, kind of sophisticated. So you might want to lean on your POS or your booking software or your digital agency to do it. But otherwise, there's no way to really fully track revenue to lead source. But with digital, you can track from Google Ads, you can track from Facebook, you can track from organic rankings on Google with different phone numbers, that then you can trace back to revenue. And then you're starting to really become more sophisticated. Say, I spent $2,000 on Google Ads, and I booked $5,000 of revenue this month from it. So it is a little bit more sophisticated. But if you're really thinking about investing a lot of money in something, I think it's worth spending the time, energy, and effort to know the numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So where can our listeners get in touch with your company? How can they find you, follow you, all those things?
You can always go to highlevelmarketing.com. Get in touch with our team there. You've had Ryan on from HLM.
We love Ryan.
A lot to live up to there, but he is a specialist in the space. We have multiple team members at High Level Marketing that focus on the spa, medi-spa, and cosmetic and aesthetic healthcare space. So go to our website, get in touch with us there, and someone will certainly help to educate and help develop a strategy for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, for your expertise, and for serving our industry.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Appreciate it.
All right. We will catch you on the next episode.